Welcome. This is the IM2 video lecture on adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. The learning target is for you to understand the three major operations of a polynomial. Those are adding, subtracting, and multiplying. The success criteria for today's lesson: 1. I can add a polynomial. 2. I can subtract a polynomial. And 3. I can multiply a polynomial. Lastly, you need to also be able to identify the leading coefficient, the degree, and the constant term of a polynomial. We need to recall our properties of our exponents. What we have here is the sum of power, x squared plus x cubed. Notice you cannot add two different exponents. This is an exponent of 2 and an exponent of 3. You cannot add two different exponents. What you can do is you can add them if they have the same base and the same exponent. Here you have 2x and you have 3x. Together they make 5x. The product of power. The product of power is when x times x. Here you see the exponent adds. If you are going to multiply the same base of x's, you are going to add the exponent. So x times x becomes x1 plus 1, or x squared. Let's look at some expression. Here I have the same two expressions, but they're separated differently. Number 1 you add, number 2 you subtract, and number 3 you multiply. Let's take a look and do each one. When we add, we saw that 2x is going to be added to the x because this has the same base of x's. Together, this makes 3x. Then you're going to add the other half, which is the 5 and the 4. So 5 plus 4 becomes 9. This would be your final answer. You add the x's, then you add the constants. Next, we have the subtraction. For the subtraction, it's the same idea. 2x minus x, because here they share the same base. This becomes just x. Then you have your 5 plus 4. Notice it's 5 plus 4. Okay? But it's very confusing. So what you should do is this. You should distribute this negative into each one of them. So this becomes negative x, negative 4. So this turns to an addition problem. Nothing happens to the left hand side. So all I did here was I distribute the negative. Now it becomes much easier. Here you have 2x minus x, add 5 minus 4. Okay? 2x minus x gets you x. We add 5 minus 4 just becomes 1. This is how it looks like. Notice when you add, notice it get bigger. When you subtract, it got smaller. Next, we are going to multiply. When you multiply, make sure you are distributing each term to each. So the first one that we have is we have 2x times x. So you have 2x times x becomes 2x squared. Then you have the other part, 2x times 4 becomes 8x. On the bottom, we now distribute the 5. 5 times x becomes 5x. 5 times 4 becomes 20. We see some like terms. The like terms are 8x and 5x. That becomes 12x. Bring everything else down. (2x squared plus 12x plus 20). Notice these are the different ways. Number 1 was adding, number 2 was subtracting, number 3 was multiplying. The question is, what is the leading coefficient, the degree, and constant term? Well, let's take a look at the first one. For this one, The leading coefficient was 3. The degree was 1 because this is an exponent of 1. And the constant was a 9. For when we subtract this one, we saw the leading coefficient was 1. The degree was also 1. And the constant term was also 1. And lastly, when we multiply, the leading coefficient was the number in front, so that is a 2. The degree is the exponent, which is a 2. And the constant is just a number, which is just 20. You should notice something about all the degrees here. Notice that the degree will remain the same. So this is a degree 1. This is also a degree 1. Notice that the degree stays the same when you add and subtract, but the degree here is 2. Notice now the degree will increase when you multiply. That is what you should see as a result of the expiration. When you add and subtract, the degree stays the same, but when you multiply, the degree will increase. Now let's take a look at the practice 1, adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. In all these problems, you need to simplify the polynomial into standard form by doing whatever it asks. Number 1 asks us to add. Number 2 asks us to subtract. Number 3 asks us to multiply. Afterwards, you have to determine the leading coefficient, the degree, and the constant term. Take this time to work on it. Now I'm going to go over the solution. The first one, I have negative 3n add to 2n. I just bring this together, and I'm also going to add the constant term now, 9 minus 7. So here, negative 3n plus 2n gets you negative 1n. Add 9 minus 7, which is just 2. No one really writes that 1, so it just becomes negative n. Here, your leading coefficient is negative 1. Your degree, we don't ever write it, but that's that 1. And your constant term is just a number, which is 2. Number 2, when you subtract, negative 3n, but this time we're going to subtract. So you know what we are going to do? We are going to distribute this negative to each term. So this becomes minus 2n, and we count negative 1 times negative 7 becomes plus 7. And you're going to add this, so it becomes negative 3n plus 9. All right, now the fact that we can, now it's in addition, it becomes easier. So you have negative 3n plus negative 2n, okay, plus 9 plus 7. Negative 3n minus 2n becomes negative 5n. And 9 plus 7 will become 16. The leading coefficient here is negative 5. The degree, which is the power on the n, which is just 1. And the constant term, which is 16. Let's take a look. When we multiply it now, we have to distribute each term. So negative 3n times 2n becomes negative 6n squared. Okay, n times n becomes n squared. Negative 3n times negative 7n becomes a positive 21n. A negative times a negative is a positive. 9 times 2n becomes 18n. And 9 times negative 7 is negative 63. Then we have 21n plus 18n. Together, that makes 39n. Okay, nothing happens to the rest. So it is just negative 6n squared plus 39n minus 63. The leading coefficient is the number in front, which is negative 6. The degree is degree 2, and the constant term is negative 63. Notice that the degree here is higher than the other ones because it's a multiplication. Number 4. We have w plus w, then plus 6 plus 7, all right? Because the w's add together because they both have the same exponent of 1. W plus w becomes 2w plus 6 plus 7 becomes 13. Leading coefficient is a 2. The degree here is a 1, and because the exponent here is 1, and the constant is 13. Now we're going to subtract. Remember, we don't like when it's a subtraction, so we're going to distribute it. So it becomes negative w, and we distribute that negative to the 7, becomes negative 7. So it's an addition problem now, but this is negative w minus 7. All right, now we can combine them. We have w minus w, then we plus 6 minus 7. So here, w minus w becomes 0w, which just becomes nothing. Then we have 6 minus 7, which is just negative 1. What's the leading coefficient? Well, you have none. Well, the leading coefficient is basically, it doesn't exist. Okay, there is none. There is none. And the degree, well, it's no degree. Here it's no degree. So the degree here is none. Like, it's 0. Because all you have here is a constant term of negative 1. Okay. Next, let's do the number 6, which is a multiplication. So you have your w times your w, gets you w squared. Then your w times 7 is 7w. We distribute the w's, now we distribute the 6. 6 times w is 6w, and 6 times 7 is 42. We see there are some like terms. The like terms is 7w and 6w. That becomes 13w. Okay, so w squared plus 13w plus, what was that, 42. Okay, leading coefficient is a 1. There's really a number 1 out in front. The degree here is 2. The exponent here is 2. And the constant term is this number of 42. All right. I understand number 5 was weird because the w's disappeared once you subtract. Okay. Good. Let's take a look at practice 2. Same process, but it gets a little bit more difficult when you do number 4, 5, and 6. Number 4, 5, and 6 are optional for students who want to do hard problems, okay? But you should be able to do 1, 2, and 3 here. Let's take a look. We have 2x minus 5 plus x plus 2. So we add the same variables. So 2x plus x plus negative 5 plus 2. So these are the same variables. So 2x plus x becomes 3x plus negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. So you can write this as 3x minus 3 if you would like. Leading coefficient is a 3. The degree here is 1 because the x has an exponent of 1, and the constant term is negative 3. Next, we have a subtraction. Again, we do not like the subtraction, so what we're going to do is distribute the negative into each one of the terms. So it becomes an addition now. Negative times x is negative x. The negative times the 2 is negative 2. Now you can add 2x minus x plus negative 5 minus 2. 2x minus x just becomes x plus negative 5 minus 2 gets you negative 7. Just plug this into your calculator. So you could write this as x minus 7 if you would like. The leading coefficient is 1. The degree here is 1. And the constant term here is negative 7. Next, it's a multiplication. But this time, so same thing. 2x times x gets you 2x squared. 2x times 2 gets you 4x. Then you have the bottom, negative 5 times x, which is negative 5x, and negative 5 times 2, which is negative 10. We see that there are some like terms. The like terms here are 9, nope, it's not 9x. 4x minus 5x is negative 1x. Bring down everything else, so 2x squared. Then you have a minus 10 here. Good? All right. Here you could see the leading coefficient is a 2. The degree here, that's the leading coefficient. The degree here is 2. And the constant term is a negative 10 right there. Number 4, 5, and 6 are a little bit more advanced. All right? But it's the same process as before. So we're going to add 2w squared plus 5w squared. They have the same constants of w squared here. This gets you 7w squared. Then you have your 4 minus 3. These are both constants. 4 minus 3 just becomes 1. So it is 4w squared plus 1. The leading coefficient here is 7 because that is the number in front. The degree here is 2 because that's the exponent. The constant term is 1. Number 5. Now we're going to subtract. Again, we don't like the subtraction, so we're going to distribute the negative. So 2w squared plus 4, nothing happens to that one. We're going to distribute that negative, so it becomes negative 5w squared. That negative is distributed to the negative 3, becomes positive 3. Now we can add them. You have 2w squared minus 5w squared plus 4, add 3. 2w squared minus 5w squared gets you negative 3w squared plus 7. The leading coefficient here is negative 3. The degree here is 2. And the constant term here is 7. Here you're going to multiply. Distribute that over. So 2w times 5w squared. So 2w squared times 5w squared gets you 10w to the 4th. Distribute that one over. 2w squared minus 3 becomes minus 6w squared. The inside now 4 times 5w gets you 20w squared, and 4 times negative 3 gets you negative 12. You should see there are some like terms. The like terms are these here. So negative 6w squared plus 20 gets you 14w squared. Okay, then you have 10w to the 4th. Add 14w squared minus 12. Here, the leading coefficient is 10. The degree here is 4. The constant term here is negative 12. 4, 5, and 6 are a little bit more advanced. It's okay if you don't know how to do those. You're going to see those in IM3. Now, For this, for practice 3, you decide which one you want to do. You're just multiplying here. Right? It's up to you. You can do the level 1 difficulties, level 2 difficulties, or the level 3 difficulties. It's up to you. All right. So let's go over this. Okay? The first one, we're just going, same thing, we're going to be multiplying. So distribute 6x to 6v to the 2v. That becomes 6v times 2v. That gets us 12v squared. Do you see that? So that gets us 12v squared. Then you have 6v times 3 gets you 18v. There you go. Next, like our last problem, distribute this over to the first term. 6p times 2p becomes 12p squared. Then 6p is going to be distributed to the 3, gets you 18p. Now we have to distribute it to the second term, the second one. So the 3 is going to be distributed to the 2p, gets you 6p. Then 3 times distribute to the 3, so 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, here there are 4 terms, right? So that's why there's 4 here. Here there are only 2 terms. Okay, one term times 2 terms gets you 2 terms in the end. Here you have 2 terms times 2 terms will get you 4 terms in the final answer. But there are some like terms. 18p and 6p will together make 18p plus 6p becomes 24p. Okay, nothing happens to the 12p squared and nothing happens to the 9. So this is the final answer. The level 3 difficulty problem, same thing, but now you're just going to distribute it more. All right. So let's do the first one. All right. So that one, 7r squared times 2r becomes 14r cubed. R squared times r is r cubed. 7r squared times negative 4 gets you negative 28. Negative 28r to the second power. Now we're done there. Now let's do the negative 6r times 2r. Get you negative 12r squared. Negative 6r times negative 4 gets you positive 20. Is that 24? Let me do that in the calculator. Negative 6 times negative 4. Yep, positive 24r. Then we have one more term. So negative 6 times 2r gets you negative 12r. Negative 6 times negative 4 becomes positive 24. Okay, now there are some like terms that you can combine. There is, hold on, something's wrong. No, this is right. This is right. Okay, so these two can combine. Okay, so this becomes negative 28 minus 12. So it becomes negative 28 minus 12 becomes negative 40 r squared. Then these two together, 24 minus 12 gets you 12r. Nothing happens here. So bring down the 14r cubed and bring down the plus 24. There you go. All right, that's a level 3 difficulty question. Number 4. Again, pick one problem to do. All right. So you're multiplying, so just distribute this in. Negative 3x times 5x should get you negative 15x squared. So you have negative 15 x squared. Then negative 3x times negative 2 gets you positive 6x. Good. Let's do the next one. Again, you're multiplying, but this time you have two terms each, so we have to distribute. 2x times 2x gets you 4x squared. 2x times 1 gets you plus 2x. Now we have to do it to the negative 1. So the negative 1 here multiplies to the 2x, gets you negative 2x. Negative 1 times 1 gets you negative 1. There's some like terms that you should notice. These two are like terms. Okay. Oh, 2x minus 2x becomes 0. X. But again, do we ever write the 0x? No, this just disappears. All right. So all you have is left over is just the 4x squared and the minus 1. Okay. The in-between ones disappeared. All right. This is not a level 3. It's a level 4. Right. Harder question. It's still doable. Okay. So the way you do this is you're just distributing, but so that's it. You're just distributing. So do this problem first. 2x times 2x gets you 4x squared. Then 2x times 1 gets you 2x. Good. Then let's do the bottom. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Then negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Combine the like terms. What do you have? Well, these two here become 0. So it's just 4x squared minus 1. All right. So notice this comes straight down. This was never touched. So I just bring it down. So the problem repeats itself here. Okay. So do you see how the 2x plus 1 just came down? All I did was I just did the first two multiplications. Now I'm going to do it here. 4x squared times 2x becomes 8x cubed. Oops, sorry. It's not wrong, but I want to make sure I color code it consistently. So let's make that red. So 4x squared times 2x becomes 8x cubed. 4x squared times 1 becomes plus 4x squared. Right? Good. And then you have blue. Negative 1 times 2x becomes negative 2x. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Here, there are no like terms. So there you go. You're done here. All right. That was a long video, but that's everything that you need to know when it comes to adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials.